world's most wanted man. The biggest manhunt in history. But after more than 10 years of being hunted, Osama bin Laden is still at large. Now, some of the planners and military involved in the hunt for bin Laden tell their stories. Many for the first time. They detail their tactics, strategies, and weaponry, and reveal just how close they came to getting their man. This is the inside story of 10 ways the United States has tried to kill bin Laden.
We're at war. There's been an act of war declared upon America by terrorists.
Within hours of the September 11th attack on the World Trade Center, the National Security Agency intercepts communications. They link the 19 hijackers to Al-Qaeda and its leader, Osama bin Laden. He's immediately put on the FBI's list and becomes the world's most wanted man.
I want justice. There's an old poster out west that said wanted, dead or alive.
But this was not the first time bin Laden had appeared on the intelligence agency's radar. The CIA started tracking him in 1996. It even had a special department called the Bin Laden Unit.
We had discovered that Osama bin Laden was not what we thought he was. We thought he was a spendthrift Saudi, doling out money to people who were doing bad things. By 97, we had discovered that he was a very hands-on, military-minded manager.
In fact, by 1997, the special unit was not only tracking him, they were devising their first plan to capture or kill him. It was bold, and it came within inches of succeeding. In 1997, the first plan had its roots in the CIA's connection to a tough band of Afghan tribal fighters. They were codenamed Trodpint and had worked for the CIA during the 1980s guerrilla war against the Soviets.
Not a lot is known about the Trodpint group, but they seem to have been a family-based unit, a clan that was very loyal internally and that was at least well enough respected that they could move around Afghanistan without attracting hostility.
In 1993, they helped the CIA hunt the Pakistani assassin who had fled to Afghanistan after killing 2 and wounding 3 agency employees in Virginia.
The assets had assisted us, and so we had a long track record with them, and they were probably the best assets we could hope for.
The Trodpints were essentially deputized as sheriffs abroad to try to bring Osama bin Laden to justice.
With bin Laden's threats against America increasing in number and menace in the 1990s, the CIA forms a bin Laden unit.
We had discovered that he was very interested in everything from strikes inside the United States to acquiring WMD weapons.
What the White House was hearing from the CIA was Osama bin Laden is a threat, he's serious, he's building an infrastructure to attack, and you should take this very, very seriously.
The Al-Qaeda leader arrives in Afghanistan in 1996 after being expelled from Sudan for his radical views. His aim is to forge an alliance with the Taliban, who can protect him as he plans his terrorist activities.
Before August 1998, Osama bin Laden was simply trying to settle into Afghanistan, to build a successful relationship with the Taliban. He was engaged in preaching activities. He was engaged in political and military organizing in the context of Afghanistan's civil war.
If any doubts existed about bin Laden's intentions, they are soon dispelled in early 1998 when an announcement is made.
He declared war on the United States of America. The very fact of a declaration of war on the American people was something out of the ordinary. We noticed it right away.
The Clinton administration takes diplomatic action. Bruce Rydell is sent to Afghanistan to ask the ruling Taliban to hand bin Laden over to face prosecution for plotting terrorist crimes against the United States.
I went to Kabul, and our mandate from President Clinton was to raise Osama bin Laden as priority issue #1 on our list and demand that the Taliban do something about bin Laden.
President Clinton demands immediate action.
Shut him down, bring him to some kind of justice, and put an end to the threats that we were hearing from Osama bin Laden.
The request is ignored.
We began a series of operations against al-Qaeda cells around the world, but they wanted to try to go after the chief, bin Laden himself. And so they said, put together some operations for us to consider.
The hunt for bin Laden begins. Using satellite photos and ground reports, the CIA tracks him to Kandahar in southern Afghanistan.
Osama bin Laden and security started off as strangers. I was a very lucky guy in the sense that he could be found with a degree of reliability.
The CIA's agents discover that bin Laden feels safe in Taliban-held territory and regularly travels with only a handful of bodyguards.
He would grab his lunch bucket in the morning, drive into Kandahar, visit his men, go to mosque, visit his businesses, and then come home at night. So there was a predictability about it.
With bin Laden's predictable behavior closely watched, a plan is devised to intercept his convoy and capture him. It depends on Afghan tribal allies paid by the CIA to ambush bin Laden.
They had been trained to execute what the CIA officers called an L-shaped ambush, which Mujahideen guerrillas had used to attack Soviet troops while they were on the road.
The attackers train extensively for this type of ambush. They're instructed to take aim at a convoy of cars, raking them with bullets first from the side and then from the front.
You can have both interlocking sectors of fire coming at you from both directions, creating an L. That way you prevent any chance of escape.
It was an ambush, but it was supposed to be an ambush where he was captured. We want bin Laden alive, so you have to focus on only fire into certain quarters of the car. It was not easy, but it was not impossible.
Armed with information on bin Laden's movements, the Afghan agents select a location on the road to Kandahar.
It was literally pockmarked with elephant-sized craters and potholes, and we also knew that he was a creature of habit. He always traveled in late-model Toyota Land Cruisers. They were white at the time, usually 3 of them.
On the day of the attack in early 1998, a lookout equipped with a satellite phone alerts a group of Afghan fighters farther down the road. Minutes later, the convoy approaches. As it nears the ambush point, the hidden agents emerge, shooting. Under heavy fire, one of the vehicles veers off the road and crashes. They hope Osama bin Laden is inside. But the attackers fail to seal off the convoy and allow 2 vehicles to escape, including bin Laden.
The best weapon, of course, to use would have been an RPG and destroy the entire vehicle. And you wouldn't have to worry about what, did I get him, did I not get him? But that was a little bit too violent for the administration.
With the failure of the ambush, the CIA comes up with a new approach. It again involves using local tribal agents. But this time, it will be the most elaborate and highly practiced plan ever devised by the CIA. The first plan to get Osama bin Laden failed when he escaped an ambush in early 1998. Immediately, the CIA begins working on another idea. This one is to abduct the Al-Qaeda leader from his base in southern Afghanistan. The compound, called Tarnak Farms, is given to him by his protectors, the Taliban.
By the time Osama bin Laden arrived in Kandahar in 1997, this agricultural facility was in disuse. And the Taliban essentially said to Osama, if you'd like a place to live, you and your extended family, because he had 4 wives and many children, this would be a suitable place.
Bin Laden soon converts the compound into an Al-Qaeda training camp. Recruits learn bomb making, urban warfare, and suicide attacks. It is also where many of his televised speeches originate. But unknown to bin Laden, CIA agents have been monitoring the compound. They believe it's an ideal location to capture or kill him.
The agency had pretty detailed plans of the farm, the different buildings, where bin Laden used to sleep most of the time, where his wives lived, where people ate, and spent a considerable amount of time scoping it out, making sure they had all the details.
Tarnak Farms lies 3 miles south of Kandahar. Its main compound is encircled by a 10-feet-high mud brick wall. Inside are some 80 1- and 2-story buildings, and for miles around, there is nothing but flat plains of sand.
While there was a wall and there was a guard system, it was not a heavily defended facility, certainly not in early 1998, which is when this plan to kidnap or kill him was hatched by the Americans.
The CIA is determined to make the abduction plan work. Step 1 is to build a replica of Tarnak Farms in the Nevada desert.
There was meticulous planning. These tribal assets were brought to the United States and trained. There was a full run-through in 3 different time zones.
These are the points of entry, these are the exfiltration routes, these are the contingency plans if something goes wrong, and so on. So it was not a casual operation.
As the plan takes shape, the reliability of the Afghan agents is called into question.
There was a lot of doubt about the loyalty of these local fighters, why they were willing to do this, and how effective they would really be.
I read the reporting that was coming to the CIA from these tribal assets, and there was some real skepticism as how truthful this really was, or whether these were assets who were sort of keeping the CIA going.
Despite this skepticism, the CIA continues to rehearse the plan.
The plan itself was to try to go in at night.
The main raiding party will walk across the desert, along a path already scouted to avoid minefields. Deep gullies will hide their approach, and then they'll breach the outer wall.
The assets would enter through a drainage pipe alongside one of the walls.
It wouldn't have been that difficult for this group to penetrate Tarnak Farms. It was not heavily defended.
A second group will drive toward the front gate. Using a silencer, they will kill the 2 guards at the entrance.
There would be a diversion, and the assets would do the deed while the guards were being distracted. We had identified which houses were his. And to kidnap him out of there.
If the attackers meet resistance from bin Laden, they're ordered to kill him.